All right. What is suing? How does it work? Do you reckon you'd be good at this one?
Yeah. So suing is what you do when you're trying to bring an action under civil law, which is between civilians, I suppose is the easiest way to explain it. So just two people, not the police, not anyone else, just two average people. And when one person has felt wronged by another, they bring an action in civil court to address this wrong or to fix it, and that's called suing someone else. So you sue someone else if they owe you money and they haven't given it back, or you sue someone else if they did something which caused you harm and they should have done better, which is negligence, that sort of thing.
Next question. Oh, I like this one. This is good. My brother says he wants to be a lawyer, but he is not that smart. So he says, I don't have to be smart, I just need to lie. So I told him they aren't supposed to lie. So I was wondering if you have to lie or you don't lie, so I can prove to him.
Yeah, knock yourself out, can't you?
Oh, I just really like that one. I think it's nice. No, lawyers are not allowed to lie. Lawyers have to comply with their duties to the court. So we have a paramount or a primary duty, a very important duty to the court to make sure that we are honest at all times and we facilitate justice. So no, that student can tell their brother they're not allowed to lie. What do you do in the courtroom? So there's different types of hearings. Some hearings you only attend
30 seconds.
Yeah, to ask for an adjournment, so for a matter to be pushed back a date. You might be in the courtroom to do a plea, so if someone's pleading guilty, you might be there to talk to the magistrate about your client, explain the factors involved.
What sentence you want and why.
Yep. Or you might be there to battle it out in a contest.
And so you might be interviewing witnesses on the stand, or you might be putting forward suggestions to the magistrate or the judge about what you say happened or your client says happened.
So many reasons.
Yeah. Or dodging unfortunate questions from the other lawyer.
Freaking out?
Yeah.
Freaking out is a good one. Freaking out.
Always a good option.
Okay. Oh, this is a complicated one. Why do people care about women and don't care as much about men?
I think you liked that question.
Do I want to answer this question? It's a complicated question.
It is.
Okay. So we'll talk about it in terms of the law. So not just why people, because I don't know if I can answer why people, but why the law. So the law, it seeks to represent everyone as equally as possible. Doesn't always do that, and that's where we try to change the law to make it better. But in a nutshell, the law originally started, so when we talk about law, we're talking about the law that you and I practice, so that's law under the Westminster system. In Australia, there's other kinds of law, like Aboriginal law, but that's not practiced in courts. And that law originally started to protect the interests and rights of mainly men and men that owned land and a lot of wealth in England. Yes, and those men were generally white Anglo-Saxon men that were nobles or landowners. And it didn't represent people like women, people with disabilities, people with black and brown skin. Those people were left out of the law. So over time, those people have demanded of the law that they be included, and that includes over time women have had more and more rights afforded to them. And sometimes it feels when people get more power, the people with power sometimes feel like they're losing out. But actually it's trying to balance power. So, and there's a good example in the law that may be around divorce.
Family law?
Family law, yes. Do you want to explain that?
Yes, so it would be quite common to see a high percentage of men in intervention orders, which is restraining orders which are designed to protect one person. And so it's quite common for applications for those orders to be taken out against men. And so it looks like it's men that are on the receiving end of this area of law, but it's not the law doing that. It's the social context, because it's statistically higher that men exhibit that type of behaviour, or that rather women are on the receiving end of that type of behaviour. But that's not all men, and it's certainly not to say that it goes only one way. It's just more commonly that that's what happens. And because of that, it perhaps looks like the law is skewed one way. But once you get to court, there are a lot of checks and balances.
Okay, next question. Have you ever been late to court?
Ooh, a fun one. No, I haven't, but my clients have.
Yes.
That's also fun.
Oh, yes, so late. I've had clients that are so late that they've missed the entire day.
Yes.
And they've missed the hearing, and then they've turned up after lunch and it's all too late.
And it's all been done.
It's all too late. What is the best thing you do at work, and what do you enjoy the most?
There's different types of good things.
I think outreach. Outreach is the best thing,
Yeah.
which is something that's special for community lawyers.
So outreach is where you go somewhere. So you take, instead of people coming to the lawyer goes to them. So Katia and I do schools, as you know. So we'll come and visit you and we'll try and help you there. But we do other outreaches. Technically court is an outreach when we go and help people at court, but there's all sorts. We have some lawyers that do hospitals or medical clinics, and they go and they see people there. But outreach is fun. You get out of the office, go and chat to non-lawyers, which is always good.
Have you ever had to protect someone even though you thought they were wrong?
Yes. So that's not uncommon in criminal law, but it's also not common. I would like to start by saying we're not there to judge anyone's moral decisions or moral actions. We're there to tell them what their position in relation to what they've done or what they haven't done, but it looks like they've done, what it is under the law, and help them navigate the best way out. We're not there to make any judgments on how or why or what's occurred. Having said that, you're human and you see some things that are not nice or that are unfair, and in that case, the position doesn't change. You still tell them what their position is and what their options are, because at no stage is it us making the decisions. It's always them. We just tell them what the pros and cons are of each option and guide them through it.
All right. That's a quick curly question. Does the drinking and driving age have to be the same? Can the drinking age not be increased? It doesn't have to be the same, but it is the same. It's currently the same. I guess at 18 you get a lot of different, you have the right to do a lot of different things. We have the right to vote. You can start drinking legally. You can start driving a car. And I mean, if there was public sentiment or there was a lot of demand for the drinking age to be changed, then I guess communities could do things like lobby government, put in submissions to do law reform. So, I mean, any law, not just the drinking age, but any law can be changed if the community as a whole believes it's not the best type of law. Can you help me lower my sentence? Yeah, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of ways to look at that. If you've got a sentence already, potentially, then you do what's called appeals, and which is where you go to another court, a higher court, and you say, can you review the decision that was made? If you haven't got a sentence, then we would work with you to convey what's happened in your circumstances and work with the police and with the courts to get you hopefully the lowest possible sentence. So it depends on how you interpret that question.
Next question. Why did they make the law that all Victorian school students aren't allowed to have their phones on school grounds?
Ooh. I think they thought you guys might be getting a bit distracted. Maybe.
But I don't think it's actually a law.
Yeah.
It would be a school policy.
Yeah.
So there's no law that you can't have your mobile phone because that would be too difficult to enforce.
I think it might have come from the Department of Education, which does all schools.
But every school would probably have their own particular policy.
Yeah.
How long does a case last in the court before finding the solution?
It varies. Matters can take a month or months or years, and the hearings can, often there's multiple hearings in one matter, but the actual hearings themselves are on the shorter side.
Yeah.
The longest period in court you'll probably get would be in a higher court, like a Supreme Court, with a trial that would be days or weeks.
How is it? Is it fun or stressful?
Ooh, both.
Yeah, it's both. It is. It can be fun, but
No, there's lots of good things. We help people who really need it, who wouldn't be able to afford the help otherwise, and it makes a big difference. We were saying before that it was stressful because you've got a lot riding on it, but it's a good feeling when you get a good outcome for these matters.
What is the silliest question that you have been asked?
Oh, I got a good one. One of my clients had a restraining order against him, which says what he can and can't do.
I think maybe you've told me about this one. It is funny.
Yeah, and it's fairly clear. And he had breached it, in which means to say he did something he shouldn't have, and it was really, really blatant, brazen, obvious breach. And he looked at me and he said, "Elizabeth, do you think the police will mind?" And I was like,
are you rich?
No.
No. That's really funny. No.
Yes.
No. No.
Yes.
Be nice. But no. What happens when the person is proved guilty? Do they see their family before they go to jail?
You can contact them. You can contact them at the police station. You can contact them at the prison. You're not cut off from them.
Yeah. People in prison can call out, so they can make phone calls, and family members can write letters and also go to visiting times as well. So, so you're not completely cut off until you come in. Can you be a lawyer if you're a dropout? Yes.
Yes. What you need is the degree, so the Bachelor of Law, and then a Diploma of Legal Practice, or a Graduate Diploma of Legal Practice is specifically what that other little degree was called. And once you've got those qualifications, you apply to the Legal Services Board and you say, I want to be a lawyer, will you accept me? There's a lot you can do.
Yeah, so you can end up as a lawyer from all different pathways.
I also feel the need to just specifically make it clear that a criminal history doesn't preclude you.
Yeah.
So they
dropping out doesn't mean that
preclude you. Yeah. They always look at the person as a whole.
Yeah. Which sorts of cases do you work on most?
We do a little bit of everything. So we do a bit of criminal law, we do a bit of employment law, we do intervention orders, so those restraining orders, family law, so who gets to see the children and when and in what circumstances, if you're the victim of a crime, assistance applications, if you're having trouble with housing and you're getting evicted, or all sorts of things. So anything and everything that walks in the door.
How old do you need to be a lawyer?
So there's no set age. So I after I did school and then university, I became a lawyer at 22.
Okay, next question.
Challenge.
That's
highly suspicious.
Yeah, it's not a question. It's a statement. Is it? Challenge. Anyway, what's a challenge?
You just got pwned.
School lawyers push-up challenge! 56, 57, 58, 59, 60. Come on, guys.
You just got pwned.
Do you know if we get fined if we don't wear a bike? Well, I think this must be bike helmet while riding bikes. Yeah, you do. So I think that
Wear those helmets, people.
wear those helmets, you do get fined.
Yeah.
This is a good question. What's the importance of knowing the law? We talked about this a little bit
Yeah,
before.
we touched on that. Just knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Knowing where you stand, what you can and can't do, streamlines life a little bit.
Yeah, and it's really always important to know your rights, and it helps you, particularly like for the young people that we work with at schools. We often cover things like street law, so working with your rights and police. We do employment and consumer, but knowing the law can even be useful when you're calling the phone company and you've got a bill that doesn't make sense and you want to ask questions about, why is my bill $300? What is the most people you've had in one case?
Ooh.
Generally, it depends. If it's a criminal matter, it'll be the state, so the prosecution, and your client, which will be the the defendant or the person that's allegedly committed the offence. So that's pretty straightforward. But sometimes you'll get a case like a motor vehicle accident. Oh, there could just be so many. So there could be your client.
The person who hit the person.
When it comes to the law, if the Prime Minister is sick or not there, who makes the decisions?
Deputy.
The deputy.
Yes.
So the Deputy Prime Minister. The funniest? I think you have a story for the funniest case you've worked on.
My client went up a tree. He was running from the police. He went up a tree to get away. The police asked him to come down, and in my client's words, I declined to do so. And so the police went up the tree after my client.
It's a really funny image, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
It's
good.
really
There's,
good.
Yeah, there's lots of funny stories.
It's a bit slapstick.
Yeah.
Is a child working at the age of 12 considered child labour?
It depends.
Well, there are generally rules around how old a child must be to work. I think
and how much you can work at certain ages.
I want to say 13, but maybe I shouldn't,
No,
because
I
there's
think it is. I think it's 13.
13. Because then if you're under that age,
13.
you'll need either a permit to work. So
Or
if you're like a child actor, so you'll need a
Yeah.
permit, or you can work for a family business.
Yeah.
Has the judge ever yelled at you?
Oh yes.
Okay, so you know how someone asked us before about are we rich? And we just went no, and then we just didn't talk about it. So now somebody is asking us, how much money do you make a year?
Okay.
All right, we've got to get into the get into the money question. So it depends really on the type of lawyer you are. As community lawyers, so we work for a community organisation, so we're paid according to the community award rate for anyone that works in a community service. Some lawyers are private lawyers and they can earn anywhere. So sometimes an entry-level private lawyer, like in a graduate position, might earn $55,000 a year, all the way up to the senior partners of the top-tier law firms that are earning millions.
Yeah.
Why are we going back to school if the virus is still happening? There was public health directives under the Public Health and Wellbeing Act, which meant that the government could make us stay home and could enforce that with police.
Yeah.
But the government has now eased those restrictions because they want to, get the economy back kick-started.
We need to learn to live with it because we can't stop it, but we can't stop everything forever.
Yes. What's the hardest thing to do in court?
Speak.
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 Oh,
Ooh.
so scary sometimes.
Yeah, they look at you
They think that you're going to know stuff and you're like, do I know
and then you're like,
oh. What's the most challenging part of becoming a lawyer?
the reading.
Oh, so much
There's
reading.
so much reading.
So much
There's a lot of work. It's high volume.
What did you choose to become a lawyer and how long did you study for?
Well, if you ask my brother, it's because I always argue.
Okay.
So I made a career of arguing.
And what did you study?
I studied at school. I think I did legal studies, but you don't have to do legal studies. The only thing that you have to do to be a lawyer is English. That's the only prerequisite, or at least it was at the time. It may have changed, but I think it's still just English.
Because I did law as postgraduate, so I already had a degree. I didn't need. It was
Anything,
different prerequisites.
Yeah.
But I think all of my subjects at school were arts and humanities.
Mine was science heavy.
Ah. What is the most common problem you see?
Oh, there's a few things that pop up. We see lots of driving issues. We see lots of fines. We see lots of
Intervention
everything.
orders, so
Yes,
family
lots of-
violence?
or even personal safety, which is, so family violence is where there's been issues obviously among relatives. Personal safety is where there's been issues between unrelated people.
Like neighbours or friends?
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of that.
A lot of family law, so parents deciding, working out who sees the children and when, and under what circumstances. A lot of employment law.
I was going to say during COVID we've seen lots of tenancy, so people that are renting in houses, so lots of people asking questions about rent and ending leases, and lots of employment questions, being stood down at work or being made redundant, which is when your job no longer exists.
Yeah.
Oh, curly questions. Are there sleepless nights? Sometimes, if you can be, sometimes it can be a bit stressful. Is it always serious in the courtroom, or do people ease up and joke around?
Yeah.
I mean, as a junior, I wouldn't be cracking any jokes. I'd be very courteous and polite and take things very seriously. I mean, it's not to say that people haven't made jokes in court. I probably wouldn't do it because I'm quite junior and don't.
That's the smart thing. When those of us who don't have that kind of forethought get nervous and we make increasingly bad jokes, which are received in varying ways from the magistrate. But that's not even just coming from us. Magistrates, I've had magistrates make jokes and crack jokes.
Yeah.
But it obviously depends on the matter.
I'm of the opinion that if the magistrate wants to crack some jokes, sure, go ahead, that's fine. I myself will refrain from cracking any jokes.
Yeah.
What other subjects do we cover while studying law? So, well, I guess when you study law, you have to do what's called the Priestly 11, very fancy sounding name for essentially 11 subjects that you must study. Yeah. So, I can't even think of all the 11 right now.
Civil procedure, criminal law.
Corporations law, property law.
Land law.
Trusts and equity.
Yes.
Yeah. So constitutional law. So some of them are exciting and interesting, others are
a bit more dry.
Yeah, bit of a challenge.
Slight.
Corporations law. Yeah. A little bit dry, just a little bit. Why are people going to jail? That's a very complicated question.
In a nutshell, we have an array of sentences, and I'll say the Magistrates Court just because it's easier, but there are essentially 4 outcomes in the Magistrates Court. A fine, a good behaviour bond, which we mentioned before, a community corrections order, which is where you might be supervised by the corrections department and you get tasks like drug rehabilitation tasks or alcohol rehabilitation tasks, or jail. And so they using those sentencing guidelines that we talked about before and the circumstances, they try and allocate you the appropriate sentence for what you did. And so jail is the last resort, but they will look at the context and then make a decision based on that, which one is the appropriate outcome.
Yeah, and I think also, because the question also asks why are people going to jail, I think it's also important to just comment on the fact that jail and sentencing is seen also in a political view as well, about who's in power and what the community at that particular time believes is appropriate. So that always changes. So we've gone through particular periods politically in government where there's been a view that we should have less people in prison, and so we should have laws that reflect that. But somewhere probably, at a time politically where there's more people going to prison. So that just that it's complicated, and we won't go into it, but it always changes.
Yeah.
Last night I had the strangest dream, and you were all in it.